Did you ever find yourself daydreaming as a kid, wishing that instead of doing that pile of homework, you could travel to another world? Maybe that doesn't have homework, only to have to settle on an online game, or, if the internet was out, books.
Books are stupid!
Like Lewis Carroll's Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, or Mark Twain's A Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court. Whether you loved them like I did, or you found them and their movie adaptations just a bit too dry, you're in luck. We've had a century or two of practice to build on these stories, and the Isekai genre of anime could be considered their current evolution. There are 5 Isekai anime that spring to mind when I think of Mark Twain or Lewis Carroll, and each one builds on their ideas in interesting and novel ways. Thank you. For the non-anime initiated, consider this a recommendation on where to start with the genre. And for those that are already of the anime faith, maybe you'll learn about some classic literature that is similar to your isekai favorites. For the first couple of shows, we need some context. So, a recap of A Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court. This satire follows engineer, Hank Morgan, in the late 19th century. After taking a swift blow to his noggin, he finds himself in the 6th century and in the custody of the Knights of the Round Table. Using his engineering knowledge, he routinely makes a mockery of Merlin and brings his knowledge of the 19th century to medieval times. Right smell, wrong place. Good diet grog, though. 2 stars. If that concept sounds intriguing, Ascendance of a Bookworm may be just the anime for you. Substituting a violent blow to the head for a collapsing bookshelf, our protagonist, librarian Urano Motosu, finds herself being reincarnated into the body of 5-year-old Mine in a medieval, vaguely European kingdom. Since this world has yet to create the printing press, new Mine is devastated when she learns that books are so exorbitantly expensive that her father would have to work for years to afford a single book. Plucky as she is, Mine, like Hank Morgan, utilizes her modern book smarts towards solving this dearth of books and becoming a librarian again, all while inventing all kinds of handy products along the way. She is a bookworm, after all.
Oh, that's why they call it that.
Her creations include shampoo, playing cards, and, most importantly, paper made from wood pulp. All of this in the name of making paper media a reality in her new life. But don't let her drab peasant's poverty fool you. This show is fairly lighthearted, with silly cutaways into Mine's inner dialogue, or to explain the gist of what she's trying to make.
I'll let Mesopotamia be my muse!
Plus, several of her inventions actually change the world around her, with the earliest being the clean, shiny hair on display after the invention of her shampoo. Also like Hank Morgan, as the inventions roll out, Mine stirs up trouble and interest in the kingdom, and, unlike Hank, Mine has to navigate an unknown time and place as a child instead of a grown-ass man. And that is where Ascendance of a Bookworm builds on Twain's work. Because of King Arthur's familiarity, at least here in the West, everyone has an idea of what that world is like.
All right, we're here, Billy. Show us some blood.
We basically have no info on Mine's kingdom. Mine's new life is a puzzle box of cultural landmines, as well as power structures, societal expectations, magic. And there are some Shakespearean levels of intrigue happening around Mine's quest for reading material. Nobility hiding among us, like in Measure for Measure, noble bastards with similar problems as King Lear's Edmund, and merchant guilds that make Shylock's demand for a pound of flesh look tame. The mystery of Mine's brave, new world, and all the people in it, is slowly and deliberately revealed in new and exciting ways with each arc of the show. And, let's face it, it's fun to see what Mine is going to invent next. If combining medieval magic and modern science is a bit of a snore for you, or you feel you've seen it too many times. But, if bringing science and knowledge to the masses in fun and novel ways appeals to you, Dr. Stone may be more your isekai speed. The initial setting is in the modern era. Science prodigy, Senku, is watching his best friend, Taiju, finally ask out his love interest. And while this YA novel plays out, a green light appears in the sky and turns every human being into stone. Which, has consequences. 3,700 years later, Senku breaks free of his petrification and realizes humanity has effectively returned to the Stone Age. All industry, infrastructure, and agriculture have been overrun by nature in the millennia that has passed. After he discovers how to break others free of their petrification, Senku begins his new life's work. Speedrunning mankind.
Back to the future!
Senku is performing the same role as the aforementioned Hank Morgan. Rather than triggering Merlin, Senku is more like Bill Nye the Science Guy. Science is key to fending off nature trying to kill the revived, from accidentally eating the wrong mushroom, to predators trying to remind us that without tools, we're not at the top of the food chain anymore. Things get more complicated if you revive the wrong person.
Suppose it would suck if we happen to wake up a murderer first.
This kind of existential philosophizing waxes and wanes in the series, if only to color the problem of the day and provide an impetus toward solving it. But Senku isn't the Iron Man of the Stone World. While his knowledge is priceless, without the assistance of others, be it backbreaking labor, craftsmanship earned through years of experience, or some occasional nefarious leisure domain, Senku routinely fails. But that's the scientific method. Experiment. Try.
And then try some more.
Dr. Stone is a love letter to science and the collective's work toward progress. And I'd like to think it's stealing from Einstein himself. Feeling and longing are the motive force behind all human endeavor and human creation, in however exalted a guise the latter may present themselves to us. I mean, Senku has E equals MC squared on his lab coat, for crying out loud. And most of his knowledge is used to make life better. Glassware, to potbelly stoves, to Dr. Stone itself, soap. So whether you fell asleep in science class, or you paid full attention, the show does a good job of keeping the material interesting and accessible, always answering that annoying kid's question, when am I ever going to use this? In the Stone World, Timmy. Which, given our impending climate disaster, may be sooner than you think.
I don't remember asking for your social commentary.
Steering us to a lighter note, maybe you prefer the more satirical themes of Connecticut Yankee. Enter Isekai anime's parallel to Seinfeld. Konosuba, God's blessing on this wonderful world. Kazuma Sato is a neat, no education, employment, or training, that suffers an unfortunate end trying to save a girl he thinks is about to be turned into street pizza. Except, she wasn't. As his soul departs, he's offered a chance to reincarnate to a fantasy world by the water goddess Aqua, who has more in common with George Costanza than the divine. Aqua makes some distasteful commentary on the nature of Kazuma's death, as well as glossing over some of the finer print in the reincarnation manual, so Kazuma decides it's time to air some grievances. Turning to the "you can choose anything in the room to take with you" trope, Kazuma picks Aqua. She takes it well. It's really just one campy session of D&D. I mean, at one point, all of the adventurers in town are called to combat a literal stampede of cabbage. Meanwhile, our Jerry has decided that defeating the Devil King is too much work and just tries to make a quick buck, get his level up, or occasionally steal a pair of panties. Georgina Costanza just wants to drink and avoid work at all costs, all while being worshipped as the goddess she claims to be. Along the way, they meet Cosmo Kramer's long-lost wizard niece or daughter or something, whose OCD isn't so much with fruit
I want restitution.
as it is with an unhealthy fixation with blowing stuff up. She can only cast a single spell and only once a day, wiping out the entire area and herself. Finally, our Elaine. Instead of worrying about which man to save her discontinued birth control for,
We have a case left.
A case? A case of sponges?
Darkness worries about making sure she's front and center in battle. She can't hit the broadside of a barn, but she is excellent at protecting people. She, really gets into it. My favorite example of how Konosuba is the anime about nothing is when Kazuma pays some succubi to invade his dreams and provide him with some tension relief.
It's suggestive as hell.
And despite his best efforts, that falls victim to stupid people in large numbers. An excellent episode. If you're sick of Mark Twain's take on the genre, or you want something a little more grim, let's take a look at our Alice in Wonderland entry, ReZero. ReZero doesn't involve the protagonist being reincarnated. Subaru Natsuki just shows up. He walks through the convenience store exit, literally through the looking glass, and he finds himself in a market of demi-humans in a strange land. Having read all of the Isekai comics, he knows all of the tropes and imagines himself as this world's newest hero. And it goes poorly for him. I mean, he is tenacious to find some non-existent, latent power. Subaru is just a regular, geeky 17-year-old kid. And his everymanness is what makes the show ultimately work, because there are some dark twists and turns in this story. The first 25 minutes of the hour-long pilot seem like benign exposition, and that's because the show is taking advantage of the same naive understanding of the genre that Subaru, and even you the viewer, has, just to pull the rug out from under you and promptly beat you with it. ReZero is what I imagine Stephen King's take on Alice in Wonderland would be. It's a psychological horror wrapped in a trauma blanket. So, consider this your content warning. This one isn't lighthearted, it's not a science lesson, and it's not a satire. It is Saving Private Ryan meets Game of Thrones, with a little Pet Cemetery mixed in. There is a really nice twist in this, so if you'd rather find out on your own or self-censor, feel free to jump ahead. Subaru does have one superpower. He has somehow become a cross between South Park's Kenny and Bill Murray's character in Groundhog's Day. If he dies, he's taken back to a particular moment in time.
Hey, mister?
Huh?
How many times have you seen me here before?
What are you talking about? I've never seen you before.
This kind of ruins the surprise of the first episode, but much of the story beyond that, while it does involve several gruesome deaths, is more about the state and history of the world that Subaru has stumbled into, including its Mad Hatters, Hares, and Tweedledees and Dums. And aside from the PTSD that clearly comes from repeatedly dying, Subaru can't tell anyone about his power. So watching Subaru adjust his plans in real time makes for an exciting roller coaster of what the f*** did I just watch?
No, get off, you stupid rats! He's not dead yet!
Before we get to our last entry, some quick honorable mentions. Bescaflone, an old school one from 1996. God, I'm practically geriatric. It's got mysticism and magic, parallel worlds, but it also has steampunk robot fights. Guillermo, get on it. Dot Hack Sign. Another older anime from my high school days, Dot Hack Sign is a mystery box show, and arguably the most thoughtful of the I'm trapped in a video game Isekai series. Unlike its Isekai descendants like Sword Art Online, it relies less on fast-paced action and focuses more on who Tsukasa is, why he can't log out, and what would happen if he died in the game. My Life is a Villainess, probably the dumbest version of Elizabeth Bennet getting stuck in a dating simulator as the antagonist. And rather than having the I'm stuck in a game motif be a thoughtful, philosophical exploration, it's just her bumbling her way through the game well enough to save her own skin. By making everyone, and I mean everyone, fall in love with her. I'm glad we ended the honorable mention on a lighter note, because the final suggestion here is definitely rated M for mature. Jobless Reincarnation begins with the trope that Konosuba mocks. Our protagonist, a 34-year-old agoraphobic shut-in, loses his life saving some teenagers from a runaway truck. Unlike Bookworm or Konosuba, our protagonist is reincarnated in an amazing audience reveal. But he maintains his 30-something intellect and memories. Rudius, or Rudy, begins his new life in his rural, high-fantasy world and discovers he has a knack for magic. Despite making Dumbledore look like a little bitch, Rudy maintains some flaws from his past life. He still suffers from agoraphobia, and at the start of the series, he's practically an edgelord. Okay, wait. Rudy's terrible, horrible, no good, very bad past and present life decisions are the driving force of the show. Rudy's mindful reflection at the end of the pilot says it way better than I can.
My last life ended full of regret and painful memories. But if I can get up when I fall and keep moving forward, I know I'll be okay. And maybe I'll prove that even a jobless, reclusive bum like me won't waste a second chance.
Think of Jobless Reincarnation as one long version of your favorite villain's redemption story. The Apostle Paul, Ebenezer Scrooge, Jean Valjean of Les Miserables. For anyone with Nickelodeon nostalgia, Zuko from Avatar The Last Airbender. And Rudy isn't the only one. The entire cast of Jobless Reincarnation consists of flawed people. His New World father, Paul, is a capable and respected swordsman and renowned lech. His magic tutor, Roxy, is a talented educator, well-meaning, but accident-prone. Sylphie, a local child and friend of Rudy, is loyal and kind, but lacks the wherewithal to stand up for themselves. These two-dimensional characters are anything but, and if someone has prolonged screen time, you can bet that you'll eventually see them at their best and at their worst. Jobless Reincarnation has the same mystery box appeal that Bookworm and ReZero have to offer, but the secret sauce are these flawed people. Personal growth isn't linear, and Jobless shows you that by seeing its characters backslide. And it doesn't help that money, power, literal gods and demons, they're all trying to move, guide, and shape Rudy's growth as well. Each encounter leaves him changed, sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse. And I suppose this is a fine time to mention that after the first few halcyon episodes, things get real. And I don't just mean the beautifully animated, gory violence. This show is about relationships, to family, friends, ourselves, and the obligations we have to those relationships, and how sometimes those are the very thing we need to push forward.
She did something no one had been able to do in over 20 years. She helped heal me. I know she'll never understand what that means to me.
Well, 2 steps forward.
Oh, wait. I still have a pair of her panties that I stole a few months ago.
1 step back, as they say. So there you have it. 5 isekai anime that stand on the shoulders of the likes of Mark Twain and Lewis Carroll. You can find links to where to watch these shows in the description below. If fiction about other worlds isn't your jam, what is? Historical fiction? Food? Sports? There's an anime series out there for you, and I'm happy to help you find it. I have to admit, a lot of these have the same plot as Tron. I'm trapped in a dating sim. I'm trapped in an online game. Oh, that's cute, because we're all trapped in an online game.
So are we, but we live in a society.
No way, I'm a vending machine now! I guess they can't all be winners, huh?